The Asphyx is a 1972 release British gothic horror directed by Peter Newbrook.
It stars Robert Stephens as Sir Hugo Cunningham, who is a scientist in the Victorian era. He's part of a parapsychology society, examining some photos that have been taken of people who have just died. Every picture, there's a little smudge up in the corner, and they conclude that could be the soul exiting the body.
Obviously.
Yeah. What else would it be?
A smudge.
Yeah. Well, they thoroughly examined all the equipment. It couldn't possibly be anything but the soul. So Hugo is about to get married to his fiancée, and he's celebrating with his son and his adopted son as well. And they're going boating on a river, because that's the kind of thing you did in the Victorian era. And tragedy strikes, and the boat containing his son and his fiancée, well, they drown basically in this river. It's a bit slightly ridiculous. Neither of them seem to know how to swim in this river that's virtually still. So,
and it looks like you could probably just stand up and you'd be like, all right.
Yes. But suspend disbelief and believe that they drowned. Yeah. And so Hugo is actually filming, he's filming them boating. So he captures this event on film. And when he plays it back, he sees this same smudge, but he sees it going towards his son rather than away from. So he then concludes that it's the Asphyx, which is something, this entity from Greek mythology, which is basically a sort of individual Grim Reaper almost for each person. Then he, as he's a scientist, he does more research, and he goes to a hanging and again sees this thing, and he some sort of light that he makes with some blue phosphorus.
Yeah, they never
and
really
water.
explained.
Not
just,
really.
He just suddenly got this light, and he's like...
You just accept it.
Yeah,
Somehow he knows that it will capture it. So, he shines this light next to the guy who's just about to be hung, and he sees this entity, but it can't escape from this beam of light. Yeah. So, he then realises that if he can capture an Asphyx, then essentially the person can't die. They'll be immortal. So they practice with his adopted son, who's obviously still alive, called Giles, who's played by Robert Powell. They experiment on a guinea pig, a literal guinea pig, and capture its Asphyx, and it doesn't die. Then it goes on from there, and he thinks, "Wow, I could be immortal." But as it's a horror movie, it doesn't all go to plan, and it becomes more and more ridiculous.
It does, yeah.
With guillotines and all sorts of unnecessary things to use to almost kill people.
Yeah, it's quite... I mean, it's nutty. Although you say that, you're saying that they capture this entity in a light, but they do it in Ghostbusters.
Well, yes.
It's basically Ghostbusters.
It is a kind of Victorian Ghostbusters.
Kind of, yeah. Although they're not helping people out, really.
No.
They're doing it for their own selfish greed, as most of these films do, playing God and all that.
Yeah.
So, but it is ridiculous. Why are we covering this? Because it's kind of... Because you covered it before, didn't you?
Well, I in a previous life, I reviewed a DVD for a magazine for it, and, the DVD was pretty terrible. But without the film itself, the quality was rubbish. So I had a poor experience with this film. But it's now on Amazon Prime, and it's since been re-released on DVD and Blu-ray, etc., etc. So it's in far better shape now.
But the kind of joke was that I had it on DVD as well, and quite enjoyed it. I think once upon a time, and you were always like, "No, it's terrible, that film. What are you talking about?" So we thought we'd lay this to rest once and for all.
Yeah,
and it's pretty terrible. And no, it's a Hammer horror at the end. Of the day.
It's a Hammer type.
And if you're, I don't know if it is Hammer.
No, I don't. No, it's not. No,
it's not a Hammer.
But it's very much like a Hammer.
It's a gothic horror from Britain from the 70s. And
sort of quite hammy acting in some points, and
I don't know. Actually, I mean, it is Hammer. I mean, obviously, it's so Robert Stephens is, if you don't know, is kind of considered like. Well, in that era, he was considered one of the great British actors. He did a lot of Shakespeare work. I think some people said he was almost like a follow-up to Laurence Olivier. Laurence Olivier, obviously, in some people's eyes, being one of Britain's greatest actors ever. He's a bit hammy at times. I mean, these are stage actors, a lot of these people. They started out on stage. They started out doing Shakespeare and things like that, and then they obviously gravitated over towards TV and film, and trouble with some of these films is the acting can be a bit hammy. Although I think that also makes the Hammer horror. You know, Hammer.
Yeah.
What's great about Hammer and who were the other? Amicus was another kind of British horror production company. They featured like all these old actors, so Vincent Price and Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, and you know, people like that always crops up in these films who were originally stage actors, and sometimes were a bit hammy. Robert Stevens, I think, is like the epitome of hammy acting, but he so believes himself as well. I mean, he does it so well.
He throws himself into it
completely, and there was some quite. I mean, because he's almost kind of he's turning mad in a way. He's that mad scientist, and when he turns mad, it works really well. And some of these, I mean, I've watched a lot of Hammer and other British horror films over the years. There's another one that I always really enjoyed, which is called Paranoiac. Which is Oliver Reed in that one. And there's a scene near the end of that where he completely goes nuts and he's racing down the stairs and he's just like completely mad. And I kind of think only British actors from the 60s and 70s could do that because they're like, they really like put everything into it. And Robert Stevens does in this a bit as well. But again, it is that kind of hammy, gothic horror acting from that time that, you know, works then, probably wouldn't be filmed in the same way now.
No, definitely
not. But you know, you're right, it's kind of love or hate, but they're quite enjoyable. This is also quite dialogue heavy and like lots of kind of, you know, technical jargon, which isn't really jargon because it's just made up for the film, and it is quite hammy and quite funny at the same time. And but I did love the. I mean, it's got, you know, I think it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love the idea. Yeah,
it's a great idea, and it's got. I mean, I love, you know, obviously, you know, we are a film channel, and the film itself is about capturing film or photography, and I like that because I used to work in photography. I think the first time I saw it, I was working in. I used to work in digitisation for photography, and it's obviously that I was, you know, looking at old photographs all the time. So from that point of view, I find it quite interesting. And then there's so many. I mean, you know, there's things in there which obviously, you know, so at the beginning of the film they're capturing images of the dead, and that's something they used to do in the Victorian times. Was they used to photograph their dead. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's very strange, and they would like prop them up like they were taking photographs.
Well, they'd have the family around.
The family, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the most weirdest thing ever, and it's just so strange to look at. We all have a fascination in death and the unknown.
Well, I mean, I guess, you know, in those days, you weren't taking holiday snaps and, you know, pictures at family gatherings all the time. It was, exactly. No. So there wasn't, you know, it might be that was the only photograph in existence of that person because that was the only time they'd ever posed for a photo.
Robert Stevens' character has built his own moving image camera. Yeah. Which is kind of in itself amazing because that was film, but it's not that amazing. He's just built this contraption. Like his light he's built as well to capture the dead. It's just, he seems to do
skirt over all these
marvels of technology that he's created. But there's an amazing scene. So when he shows back, so he films his son and his wife drowning, and his son like smacks his head on a tree. And then falls in the water and then they drown. But the film that we're watching, when they shoot that scene, they cut to the close-up of the... But then when he's watching back his moving image, it's exactly the same. Which is hilarious.
Hold on.
Because they didn't actually... I didn't think no one really invented the cut until like... What?
So it didn't...
1917 or something like that, which I thought was hilarious. It's just suddenly gone into this close-up.
Suddenly invented the zoom at the same time by accident.
Yeah, it was a great moment.
So, but again, there's stuff in this film that you kind of just have to, let it slide.
It's hammy, but it's great fun.
Yeah,
it's like an hour and 20 minutes, so it's not long. It's just got some ridiculous stuff. I do love all the. So there is a bit where they start killing. Kind of each other to save, because when you're going to be immortal. Well, let's get on with that straight away. But the first one is like electrocution, and then the second one is guillotine.
It
just go with the electrocution. Why go with the? Because that really looks. If that anything goes wrong, that's it. You're screwed.
Unsurprisingly, it goes wrong.
Unsurprisingly, it goes wrong.
So that again, that's something that's like, why did you need to change the method of because basically they're trying to sort of get each other near death, so the asphyx will appear. So electrocution, obviously, the more you're electrocuted, the closer you get to death. But that's obviously a slightly slower process than just a blade that comes down and chops your head off.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah,
doesn't
I-
really make sense why
No.
they would, especially if you've got an electric chair that you've made. Why would you then not use that? It doesn't. Again, yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
And can you fool death in that way? Because wouldn't he be like, are they actually going to die, or this guillotine's going down very slowly?
Yeah.
I just am I going to kill this person?
Well, that's the thing. If you know you're not going to die because it's staged, then surely your asphyx wouldn't appear.
Exactly.
It just you
Yeah.
just have to kind of not ask these questions
No.
because it falls apart if you do. But I think
Totally.
the main thing of it, the idea of it in itself is the main draw for it.
Yeah.
And if you like sort of Hammer style stuff, then you'll be on board with the acting and the kind of, it is a little bit like we talked about, these stage actors. The whole thing feels a little bit stagey.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you like that kind of thing, then you can get on board with that and enjoy the acting for what it is.
Yes, I mean obviously Robert Powell's in there as well, who's also quite hammy.
I mean he plays it very straight, doesn't he?
He does play it very
serious
straight,
all the
very
time.
serious, yeah. But obviously he went on, to do big kind of movies like Jesus of Nazareth. He was in. He's in a great. We've spoken about Oz, the kind of Oz exploitation in the past. He was in one called The Survivor, although I think that had another name. I think it's on my. Is it Harlequin? No, I think it was Harlequin.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Was it on that?
It's
DVD
on that box
set
set,
you've got?
yeah. I think that was it. Is that The Survivor? It might be a different film. But I'm sure there's a plane in it. I can't. Anyway, maybe there were two. Maybe he did two. Maybe he went out to Australia and made two.
Maybe you're rambling.
I am rambling. Well, let's do our grand finale. So we don't have it on. I have it on DVD. I couldn't find it. I think I may have sold it a few years ago. Not great. But it is available on Amazon Prime.
It is on Amazon Prime, yeah. So check it out on there. I mean, the DVD I mentioned earlier that I reviewed back in the day, I think that was an Anchor Bay one, and it was, I think it basically was a pan and scan version, so 4:3, which had then been cropped, so it would be 16 by 9, so it would fit on a widescreen TV. So it was like everyone's face was like filling the screen, so you couldn't really see properly what was going on. That didn't help me with my enjoyment of the film. But fortunately, it was re-released. I think the version that you've got was like 2 disc, and there's 2 different cuts in existence of it. One's a extended one, which I don't know if that was shown theatrically in the US. I'm not sure, but it basically had all the deleted scenes put back into it. And I think the Blu-rays that have been released in the US, have both cuts on them. But I think the theatrical cut, it looks really nice. I think it looks like the version on Amazon is the restored version because it looked pretty good quality wise. But the reinserted scenes into the extended one are of a lesser quality. Right. So bear that in mind if you do pick up the Blu-ray. But you can watch, if you've got Amazon Prime, you can watch it on there.
So that was the Asphyx, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below.
Hit the subscribe button up there if you've enjoyed what you've watched, and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. There's some other videos to check out over there. Come and find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, and come back next week for another video.